All right, to all of my Jewish friends out there, Shana Tova. I'm up in Providence celebrating the holiday with my family. Anthony, great to see you, man.
Mazel tov.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Lives. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our first post-Labor Day show. I think we're on episode 509 or something like that. Anthony, I got to learn how to count. How are you today, my friend?
Is it Shabbat Shalom? Is it Mazel Tov? Is it Zayka Zint?
It
Which
is
one?
Shabbat Shalom on Fridays. This is Shana Tova because Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. We're celebrating a brand new year, and it's going to be really, really sweet, we hope. So I'm up here in
Happy
Providence,
holidays,
already.
my friend.
Thank you. And guess where I'm staying today? I'm staying at a fun hotel, a brand that I know you love.
Graduate. How did I know? Dude, I guessed that.
Yeah, you did. That's awesome.
That's a good guess.
Yeah, what a great hotel. I've been here before. This is a building has been opened in 1922. And I've been here before in a previous iteration prior to it becoming a Graduate. And it's great to see how much they've changed this building, how much they've instilled that Graduate feeling to it. And being that Providence is such a great college town, Anthony, it's the perfect fit, I think, for this neighborhood.
Is the hotel pretty busy?
It was very, very busy over this weekend. In fact, I want to thank Scott Williams, the general manager over here, for incredible hospitality. And I got a great T-shirt. I'm excited about that. But he said this summer they were running really well above what they expected to do. The same story we've seen when it comes to any leisure business, Anthony. Right now, they're starting to go down a little bit because we're right after Labor Day. There's not a lot of business happening. Those vacations are slowing up. So they're experiencing what we've been talking about and predicting.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen across, and especially in that kind of hotel, in that kind of area with a lot of colleges. Kids are now in school. Now everybody's got to kind of bunker down, and so it's not going to be as busy. But like you said, I think that's going to be across the board.
Yeah, it sure is. All right, Anthony. I'm really excited for today's show. But before we do it, Graduate has the coolest little marketing thing that I found. Do you know what their room keys look like? Have you ever seen the room keys?
What kind of? Well, isn't everyone? It's like an ID, like a college ID, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is David Byrne because he went to school up here. We got Emma Watson. You might know her from from Harry Potter movies and stuff like that. And if you love the show Blackish, I know I do. Tracy Ellis Ross is over here. We've got a painter, American painter, Kara Walker. This is really cool. I got a Seth MacFarlane here, and they've got a Willie Nelson here in honor of Nashville. But Anthony,
I love that.
One more. I got one more to show you. The coolest one because it's a hotel guy. Barry Sternlicht. How cool is that?
Oh, wow. Well, and that's what I love. Like when you have an independent hotel and you can market it yourself and you kind of run it yourself. That's what Graduate's done. I think Graduate's going to be bought by a major brand very soon. They've really put in the right infrastructure in the right areas with the right marketing. I don't know. There's got to be talks. Mark my words, write this day down. By January 2nd, you're going to hear that Graduate has been acquired. I would be surprised if they're not acquired soon. So all my Graduate friends, if I'm wrong, send me a DM and tell me to shut up.
Yeah, well, I'll gladly do that, regardless of if you're right or not, if you'd like. So, Anthony, let's get into today. We got a packed show today because today we're going to be celebrating African American content creators. I'm really excited about this. It's something we haven't really talked about. It's a brand new angle for our show, and one of the coolest integrated marketing firms that there is in the entire travel sphere is MMGY Global, and you know them. They've been great at really predicting the trends, at really helping people understand where the hospitality industry is moving to. And they were the ones behind this particular program. And today we've got on, let's bring him onto the show right now, Danny Guerrero. And he is with his VP and general manager with North American Strategy out of Los Angeles. Danny, great to see you, my friend.
Hey, likewise. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So what a great idea. What a great program, being able to shine a light on a group of people that haven't necessarily been given that same sort of opportunity.
Absolutely.
Can you share with us a little bit about where this came from and what your overall philosophy is when it comes to issues like this?
Yeah, thanks for the platform. This really started back in 2020. And like many of us in the travel industry, after the tragic death of George Floyd, we as a company wanted to really step up. And even before, George Floyd, we had been discussing at a high level what we could do. You talked a little bit about research and trends. One of the largest divisions of MMGY is our travel intelligence division. And we've always, for over 30, almost 40 years now, have been putting out Portrait of the American Traveler and all these great research studies on travel and looking at travelers of all types. But we've never actually released studies that focused on different needs of different individuals. And so what we wanted to do was really stand up and advocate for Black travel organizations and Black travelers and travelers of all kinds. So just in a couple of weeks, actually, we have a new study called Visas Latinas talking about the Latinx traveler. So, but back in 2020, we got together with my buddies who you'll meet in a little while. The Black Travel Alliance, National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals, went to them and said, what do you need? As organizations who advocate for Black meeting professionals and Black leisure travelers, what's missing? And that's when it started. The collaboration started to give back 100% of the net proceeds, do a study, 8,000 plus sample size between existing research we had, plus a brand new study of travelers, and not only in the US, but globally. Black travelers, and really understand the power of the Black travel community, but also the needs and the blind spots. And there are many that the study kind of found out.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. And it's not just only when an event happens in this country. It's what we're trying to do on this show, you're trying to do. It's just it's like, even like saying the words that we're saying, it's we're focused on this now, and we're really trying to help the community. It almost feels like we're frauds, because it feels like we should be doing this for so long, and it shouldn't be even a conversation anymore. That we have to be talking about Black content creators instead of just creators. It just tells you how far we're far behind we are, and it's wonderful that we're doing it, but it's just such a shame that this is where we are.
Yeah, it is a shame, but also it needs to happen, right? So being a person of color myself, being, a senior person at the company, one of the only people of color at that level that I am, my perspective is, and the study found this out, right? People of color tend to bring themselves to whatever they're doing. One of the key data points was race matters when you are planning travel for Black travelers. You see that it's part of your experience from the minute you decide where you want to go, to how you're booking it, to where you want to stay, to how safe you feel getting there. It's an issue for people of color. And I think that it's nice to think, we're beyond that, but we're not really yet. And until the research shows that we're beyond that, then we're beyond that. So the important thing, I think, and this is where our company, we the giving back is very important. And I'm so happy to meet some of the individuals that have received the grants on this presentation today. But the research for us is really important. The Latinx, the Latin traveler studies coming out, we intend to do the same for accessible travelers, Indigenous, Asian American. We want to really be able to understand what are the different circumstances. The census just came out. You guys must have seen this a couple of weeks ago, where the demographics in this country are shifting, right? Population zones are changing. Natural birth, immigration are affecting the way people perceive where they're going to go, what matters to them, how they experience culture. And so these things are evolving, and research is the best way to understand from these individuals what drives travel demand.
Yeah, just you saying to us just now that when someone is traveling, they're considering, as a Black traveler, they're considering race as one of the factors. And you just proved to me that how far we are behind, because I never even thought that. Like, I never thought that. Right.
Same thing.
It just, right.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah,
never ever even crossed my mind.
Right.
Why would it, right? Why would it?
I just came back from the Georgia State Tourism Conference, presenting to, 100, 200 people in the room, and I'm showing this data point, right? And it's not me saying it. Right. I'm passionate about this. Jason, Ursula, you'll see, know this.
We're going to bring them on in just a second. Yeah.
Yeah, but the data speaks for itself, right? Safety, the fact that Black travelers don't feel safe, that they're concerned, the fact that Black meeting professionals have issues with feeling welcomed in hotels or in communities. That's an issue. We have to understand these things so we can address them, so we can get to the place where we all want to be, where it's not an issue anymore.
So let's do that, Danny. Let's address this. And to help us with this, we're going to bring in our next round of guests, Ursula Petula Barzi, co-founder and board member and research committee chair of the Black Travel Alliance. And then also joining us, Jason Dunn, the immediate past chair, the National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals. Welcome so much to our show today, No Vacancy Live. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Anthony, you want to ask the first one, or you want me to get us started?
Just get it started, because I'm just fascinated to hear how everybody came together.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was going to say. Ursula, Jason, how did you come together with Danny and make sure that this important issue was going to come to light to help educate guys like Anthony and myself, who are really surprised to hear the reality of the situation that you folks go through on a regular basis? Ursula?
So the Black Travel Alliance is a relatively new organization. We actually launched in June of 2020, really sadly off the back of the tragic death of George Floyd. We were all sitting at home, and we were having conversations about how we were seeing DMOs as well as travel brands responding with their Black squares, and recognizing that there was a massive disconnect between what they were saying on social media and in general, plus what our overall experience has been. And so a group of 18 Black travel content creators, we came together to form the Black Travel Alliance, and we launched with a campaign called Pull Up for Travel. And so we issued a challenge to the DMOs, to the travel brands. We said, tell us your numbers. Tell us, you say that you support Black travelers, the Black travel movement. So tell us, how many Black staff do you have? Right. Tell us, how many Black people you use in your campaigns, your charitable, contributions, how many Black journalists, media you invite, just a whole host of things that we wanted to say, okay, let's benchmark this. And we got lots of statements, because these numbers are quite sensitive. But it was a starting point, and it got a lot of attention. And from there, one of the opportunities that came about was with MMGY, and we know that if we want to move beyond the emotional argument, we need strong data. And so that's where the partnership made sense, because we're asking DMOs as well as travel brands to spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, to change the way they do business, because we know that Black travelers have specific needs and they're not being catered for. And it's just like, if you did X amount more, think of the market share. So it's like moving beyond the the emotional argument to make the economic argument. And so that's what we wanted the data for.
I like that. So Jason, let's bring this then over to you. Add to what she was saying, but also really just fascinated with your organization as well. So if you could give us a little bit of understanding what the National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals is all about and your membership makeup.
Yeah, so we were created in 38 years ago, this year actually, as of February 26th. And with the original founders, the original 6 of them, who began to go to destinations. And we noticed that when we went to destinations, when I say we, I mean your traditional legacy African-American groups or Black groups, from religious organizations to your civil rights organizations in the NCP, Urban League, whether it's the Divine Nine, all of those groups whom can pack out one city with one of their groups just by themselves, although they have numerous groups. So when we went to destinations and we look at the CVB staff, we look at their service staff, their hotel staff, their convention center, and did not see any persons of color, there was a movement afoot 38 years ago that spoke to how do we ensure that there's diversity within the staff and that people who look like the groups that are bringing all this economic impact are reflective of the demographics of the groups that were coming. So that was an initiative that was created. The organization was then founded and incorporated. And from there, we now have several Black CEOs of CVBs. There are numerous black director of sales, general managers, etc. And so that movement has become something that is not new, but has been sustained over the course of time. Are the numbers we want them to be? No. And I think what happened when George Floyd was murdered last year, it kind of sparked a new sense of pride and urgency to broaden the scope of what the importance is, and to add more partners to the mission. And post the State of Black Tourism that we do every year, we got a phone call from MMGY Global, who said, hey, we want to be a part of this. We want to have a conversation. And then we had a discussion about it. And they were actually saying the things that we wanted to do, but didn't know what the resources were. So to Ursula's point, we wanted to ensure that we had the data points. We wanted to speak to what the organizations bring to a city, to a state, to help change policy, et cetera, and what that means to an actual institution. So when people come into a city, not only they help with tax dollars, but also affect policy, those people who are being elected, those communities who are being empowered. So we wanted to ensure that that was not lost upon the ears of persons who make decisions, who are supposed to be speaking on behalf of organizations, and frankly, to empower associations on their real power and how they can move people within the local cities of whom they choose to attend their conventions.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Anthony?
numbers are very, very powerful. It's a great way to really move the conversation. But what happens in this country and in many places is something like the tragic death of George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd happens, and then all of a sudden everybody's up in arms, but then it moves past that. And people in my community kind of move past it and are not, they all came out, everybody's posting things on social media, but everybody moves forward. So how do we continue to ensure, you've been in business over 30 something years, and we're still not having the diversity that we'd love to see in our community? So how do we continue it?
I think from our perspective, we are very strategic on what cities get our business. What that means is we look at, to Ursula's point, the staff, of the diversity of your staff. We look at what you're doing into the city. We look at your spending practices with supply diversity efforts as well. And then that's how we select what cities we're going to. So conventions have been extremely surgical, I guess that's the correct word, on where we're going, how we're going, and what the expectations are should you want to host our meetings. And that has become in the forefront. That's become a priority. And we just enforce that with data, and we use it as an anchor. Here's where we are. Here's what we do. Here's what the things that we can help with your city, but you have to also do some things for us as well. And you have to diversify your staff. There has to be, you have to be that pointed in the discussion, and not fall back from it.
Anthony, I've got a couple of numbers for you that I think you're going to be interested in before you ask your next question. According to the Black Traveler Report, Black U.S. leisure travelers spent $109.4 billion in 2019 over 458.2 million stays. But to go to what Jason was just saying, the survey of Black meeting professionals, NCBMP's meeting professionals plan an average of 7.5 meetings per year, spending over $900,000 annually. That's about $120,000 per meeting over there. So all of this is real money, real statistics that can make a real difference.
Yeah, and I'd like to put it out there right now that I would like to be invited to a family reunion.
Right?
Because no one does family reunions better than the community. So if someone would invite me, I'd appreciate it.
I just want the T-shirts.
Anytime we have a reunion of an African American family, it's always the best, the most fun. But you're right. Those numbers don't lie, and and unfortunately, green is what kind of speaks, right? So when you speak with your dollars, people listen.
Yep, Danny. Why don't we bring you back in here? So, what do you think based on what they're saying?
No, I think there's been a lot of mobilization, and the fact that a year plus into our relationship, not only have we managed to sell so many reports that the study has been able to grant, $70,000 plus back to Black content creators and Black travel organizations, but verifiable large hospitality companies, travel companies have bought the study and are deploying now ways to look at the audience, understand the needs, speaks a lot to the effort. So the question you asked Jason earlier, companies are taking the research, are taking the data. We have done collaborations with destinations here in the US. Ursula and MMGY collaborated with a major destination on removing barriers shoring up brands, making sure that, to Jason's point, that destinations are inclusive, not just the DMO, but the communities themselves. So a lot of work is being done. And we continue to do the great work alongside these organizations, but also moving forward in the other communities that we mentioned. I'm really excited, again, to be able to also empower the organizations. I know we have some content creators on today. And I know that Jason and Ursula personally went through so many applications for all these organizations and content creators to find the ones that best espoused, why this initiative was so important. So I'm just so grateful for this whole initiative.
And I want everybody to stick around because we will be getting to those content creators in just a couple of minutes. And again, you guys back there in the green room, thanks for your patience. But I do want to make sure that everybody really understands the importance of this topic before bringing you in. Ursula, Danny is saying a lot of interesting things. How are you now in a better position with all of this data to really affect change? And with these grants, help create that content, which I think will further your goals.
Yes, but one thing I should say, Glenn, is that the U.S. Black travel market is actually 129.6. So the 109 figure was just for U.S. spend.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
National travel, it's pretty much 130 billion. That being said, what this data has allowed us to do is have conversations, with DMOs and travel brands. And, as Danny mentioned, we've done a couple of, consulting projects where we're speaking to the DMOs about making some real change in, the way they do business. And so that takes, looking directly at how they, currently operate, and then seeing what changes they need to make. Another thing that we're also doing, internally is working with our content creators. So we put on a series of events to help our, content creators, level up. We also put on a, event called Wavelength, where it's a bit of a matchmaking, because one of the things that, the DMOs as well as travel brands say is that they don't know where to find Black travel content creators, which is quite shocking. But we're like, okay, we will play matchmaker. So, we have had, 2 of these events, we've had, anywhere from, 25, 30, brands and about 100 content creators, and hundreds of meetings I had. And so partnerships are being formed with the view that they can go out and showcase these destinations.
Right. Anthony, you muted yourself.
Sorry about that. No, I'm just fascinated by all this data. What is the number one factor from all the data that surprised anyone on this panel? Is there one thing that was shocking?
For me, there's 2 points. Not so much shocking, because when the data was released in 2 phases, we had 2019 data that existed that started to give us indication that Black traveler and safety was concerning. We started to see nuances between all travelers and Black travelers. I believe we saw the data point that said 67% of all Black travelers basically felt unsafe when traveling. That there was, and I forgot the actual description of the actual naming of the term, but it was the highest of that agreement statement, that they felt unsafe when traveling.
Like a strongly agree.
Yes, a strongly agreement statement. And then the other one was the word of mouth with Black meeting professionals, that, more than the going to CVBs and DMOs, that Black meeting professionals took to word of mouth. There was a lot of correlations there that I felt with the Black leisure traveler and the meeting professionals regarding trust and safety. So Black leisure travelers and meeting professionals went to people and places they knew because of safety and trust. And so what it told me was that there was a strong correlation in exposing themselves to places or experiences that wasn't within the realm of what they felt was safe to them, both from a professional standpoint and a leisure standpoint. And that made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, this is really upsetting to me to hear that, people have to go through this thing. And Jason, I'm going to have to ask you, could you relate a little bit more what this experience has been like for you over your decades of traveling, and that feeling that people like Anthony and I need to understand more?
Well, I think it I say this in an interview, I forget what it was, but many of the persons whom after, because we knew the data, we know the impact per our organization.
Right, and plus you're living it, you know it, but you just didn't have it on paper.
Right, and so it was an emotional response when we got the actual results. Many persons cried who have been in the industry for a long time, because keep in mind they've been in rooms where they're the only one advocating for support and resources, for knowing that the impact of our organizations mean to a destination. So many persons cried. They're very emotional. Some were empowered because they felt defeated in rooms where they didn't have the accurate data to stand on. MMGY Global, we made sure in the beginning that they used the same model and methods that they use for any other study that they do. So no one could poke holes at it, could say it's not worthwhile, it's not credible. We know that they go to tier 1 destinations, New York, et cetera, that they partner with. So for them to come back with these numbers, it made it something that was irrefutable. You cannot poke holes in it. It is a global organization that has results that frankly are correct, that have been saying what we have been saying. And from us, again, it felt like we were empowered, a sense of relief that we don't have to scream and yell and march and riot or have unrest. Here's the data. So you can actually choose as a destination or a brand. Do you want to actually go to where your consumer base is, or do you want to lose money, be irrelevant? And so that's really the question at hand. Moving forward for the future, here are the demographic switches. Here are the consumer bases. Here's the economic impact. Here's what the money that they spend. Do you, as your brand, want to reflect and be involved and be relevant in this space, or be irrelevant and not evolve and devolve? And I think that's really what the conversations come down to. And people have made the right decisions on aligning with the future and with the demographic they're stating based off the data that we provided through the partnership that we're talking about now.
Right. All right. So Colleen is asking a question. Because this is such a new topic to her in particular, I'm interested in Ursula's comment about the special needs she refers to in reference to the BTA. Could you please explain that a little bit more in detail, Ursula?
Special needs, what did she mean?
I don't know. Not exactly sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what she.
Don't worry about it. She'll clarify her statements, and we could get back to it. But what I would like to ask you, Ursula, is what about the importance of highlighting Black content creators? That's my segue into being able to bring them on. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll bring the guys on.
Yes. Well, I mean, Black content creators tell stories differently. I mean, we tell stories based on our own experience.
Right. Of course.
We just ask different questions. And so from that standpoint, if a destination, one that is, predominantly Black, but, also those that are white, majority, if you want to attract a Black audience, it makes sense to bring in Black content creators. Right. Because when it comes to researching, destinations, to the earlier point, one of the things that we do is, Google, is this destination safe? We also go into Black travel groups and ask our fellow Black travelers, what's been your experience in this destination? And so if you're not using Black content creators to help tell your story, right, you're missing out on, people who can help, amplify your destination. So it's critical. And even here, with the Black Travel Alliance, all of us are content creators. We have different niches. I focus on the Caribbean. There are others that are, the outdoors, luxury, family travel, you name it. Whatever niche there is in travel, you have Black content creators that can fit that niche. And so if a DMO, travel brand is serious, about targeting Black travelers, we're out there. And so that's where, the Black Travel Alliance can help make that, connection.
Right. Anthony, you want to say anything before we bring the guests on?
No, it's just fascinating to me, all this information that I'm learning today. Right. I've been in the business for 35 years, and right. It's a perspective that I've just never really thought about. And it's also from a sales perspective, a revenue perspective, a business perspective. It's almost it's a failure on two parts. One, as just just as a neighbor, and two, as a business person. So it's all fascinating.
All right, so let's meet two of the content creators that were given this this grant. But Danny, maybe you could tee it up. Okay. Where did you come up with this particular idea, and what did you hope to achieve with this program? And then we can get those guys on set to find out if you achieved your goal over there.
Well, I will not take any of the credit for this program. This is absolutely the co-chairs of the study. We had a whole steering committee for this study. We knew that MMGY did not have any of the expertise. So Ursula and Jason were actually our co-chairs. We knew that we were going to grant about 30% of all the net proceeds to their organizations, including a third one, National Association of Black Hotel Owners, Operators, Developers. But if the 70% was going to be for a fund of some sort to go back to the Black travel community. Toward the middle part of our relationship, we were so busy getting the study out. We got together with Jason and Ursula, and as a team decided that we were going to put together a grant program. And really, the credit all goes to Jason and Ursula for putting together this program. They were the ones that architected the application process, the categories, and then actually read through the applications. MMGY really was just served as a platform. So I give all the credit to them. We obviously were looking for applicants who really were going to do the most they could with their platform and advocating for Black travelers. And really, one of the points of the study that we found also is that Black travelers are out there looking for cultural experiences, expanding their view of the world, going out there and being inspiration for other Black travelers. And I think that's, from a content standpoint, we want people who are out there experiencing life, experiencing travel, and inspiring others. So hopefully I did that justice.
I think that you did. All right. So you mentioned Nabhood and our
Nabhood was a third partner in this in not a co-chair of the study, but a third recipient of the $10,000. So each of the organizations got $10,000 plus the $70,000 that was granted out to the grant recipients.
Well, Andy Ingram, the CEO of Nabhood's been on our show a couple of times, and he is joining me on my Friday night show, Friday Night Audit, where we sit around and have some cocktails and laughs in just a few weeks. So I'll be looking forward to seeing him again real soon. All right, so let's bring into the show two of these recipients, Mr. Frederick Murphy, and he is the founder of History Before Us, and Lamar Shambly, founder and executive director of Teens of Color Abroad. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Excellent. So, Frederick, let's start with you, since you were the first one to appear backstage earlier today. Tell us a little bit about History Before Us and what this opportunity to get this grant is going to do for you, and how it's going to help shape your content. I think we cannot hear you. You're still muted. Hold on one second, sir. It says you chose to mute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
Yep, sorry.
All right.
So History Before Us, I'm a licensed clinical mental health therapist by trade. That's just always been fascinated with oral history. Back as a kid, hanging around great aunts, great uncles, great grandparents, great great grandparents. And it really served as a blessing for me to be able to understand things more from a cultural standpoint. So in 2015, I reached the burnout point in therapy. You take on so many individuals' challenges on a daily basis, specifically being an African-American male therapist. There's not very many licensed African-American male therapists. So you tend to get more work than others that are looking for specifics as it relates to culture. So I said to myself, I have to kind of get back from a self-care standpoint, get back to what it is that I love. And that's collecting histories, that's collecting oral histories, that's documenting these things. And that's doing that type of activity in these communities that unheralded heroes, if you will, live. And so that's kind of what jump-started History Before Us, for me to make it official, for me to create that self-care and that balance. And since then, I've been able to, fortunately enough, produce many documentaries, as well as provide presentations titled Utilizing Film to Better Understand Historical Trauma in the African-American Community, and work with a plethora of universities, civic organizations, churches, et cetera, to continue to create the narrative from the African-American and also just individuals of African descent and indigenous descent, specific lived experience. So it's shifting the narrative of what has been given to us in society throughout the span of generations, decades, et cetera, and creating our own. So that's the premise of History for us.
Excellent. Anthony?
Just fascinating how everyone's having their own perspective, and each one of these content creators can really give everyone, not only from the African American thing, but everyone an education.
Yeah. All right. So, Lamar, let's ask you. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what this is going to be able to enable you to do, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Great to see you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. Jason and Ursula, I wish I could jump through the computer and give you both huge hugs just for believing in me and believing in Toca. Just to give you a background, I am a high school Spanish teacher and the founder and executive director of Teens of Color Abroad. We provide high school students.
Hola, señor.
Ah, hola, buenos días a usted. I'm the founder and director of Teens of Color Abroad. We provide high school students of color with global language learning opportunities. Before I became a traveler, I was a language learner. When I was in high school, I loved Spanish class. I loved like Celia Cruz, and I used to listen to a lot of La Mala Rodriguez, and so a lot of really artists that were rapping in Spanish. And so I fell in love with the language, and it was language learning that led me on the path to become a global citizen. And so at the bequest of my former students, they were like, yo, Mr. Chambly, you speak Spanish well. How did you do it? And I said, when I was in college, I studied abroad and it changed my life. I got to see parts of the world that I didn't think that I would see, but it's because I started studying Spanish. And so my students were like, yo, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a language learning program where we could travel, but really study languages? And I was like, yeah, I think that would be really dope. So turns out I did that right before COVID. Starting a study abroad organization for high school students before a global pandemic is not the smartest, but we have adapted in a very special way. And so over the past year, we've created a virtual language learning program where students are studying Arabic, Spanish, or French from refugees from around the world. So they get this really engaging language learning experience, but also get to participate in conversations that help expand their global awareness. And so during a time where travel isn't as easy for students, we're getting them to connect with the world from home. And so over the past year, we've been able to enroll over 200 students from more than 20 states to begin learning these languages so that in the future, they will become travelers.
That's great.
That's you know, it's been a shame because growing up I never traveled. I went in the military, never traveled outside of Honduras, Missouri, and until I had my own TV show, did I start traveling. And I've traveled the world, and I realized that being a global citizen at a very young age probably would have helped me understand everyone around me. Everyone came to my neighborhood, different cultures, but I never really understood their culture. So it would have been really, really helpful and fascinating for me be someone to even as a young white guy from Brooklyn to really understand the different languages and cultures, to really get to understand how people live. And I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Lamar?
Yeah, I was just gonna say thank you. It's really incredible to watch students learn this language, especially for Arabic. Students start our program with zero Arabic, not even knowing how Arabic sounds, to by the end of the program being able to say their name and to say where they're from and to introduce their family members. And so something that we see with language learning, it also breeds cultural empathy. And so we're seeing that over 95% of our students, after they do our virtual program, that they're excited and interested about meeting people from different backgrounds.
Right.
And so it's also really important that we provide refugees dispersed throughout the world with this really incredible experience to share their passion for language learning at a time during COVID where they can stay safe at home and really engage our students in some really cool language learning and cultural experiences.
Right. Awesome. So Ursula, you got two awesome content creators here. What made them stand out to you that you said we gotta grant these guys the rewards here?
Well, Lamar's program really stood out for me because when I was a high school student in Boston, I'm currently in London, but when I was a high school student in Boston, I went to a program called the Urban Scholars Program at UMass Boston. And through that program, it opened my eyes to different cultures and the world of travel. And so based on what Lamar was trying to do with the language, thrown in. I actually took Russian through that program as well. And it was just fascinating fascinating, being able to speak, other languages, and it helps when you're traveling, across Europe, etc. So I was quite, encouraged, about what he was doing there. And then history, before us, this had a lot of appeal because the Black Travel Alliance is currently working on another project titled History of Black Travel. And this is where we're trying to document stories of Black, pioneers and explorers, because people seem to be under the impression that Black people just started traveling. And it's like, our history did not begin with slavery. Black people have been here since the beginning of time, and we have been traveling for leisure since the beginning of time. And so, we have been putting together these stories on a new website that we launched, called The History of Black Travel, and seeing that there are other content creators out there who are doing something similar, definitely wanted to, support. So it's for those reasons why those were, both, appealed to me.
Now, are you working on any type of documentary on the history of Black travel?
That's something that we will eventually do. The first phase was just to launch the website in partnership with Tourism Reset, which is an academic, research. So yeah, that was just phase one, to launch the website. And in future, yes, we could see ourselves making, documentaries. But yeah, something for the future.
Jason, let's get you back in here. What is it that struck you about these two gentlemen and the content they're creating and how they're trying to make a difference?
I think similar to what Ursula is saying, again, I believe that tourism empowers communities. And as we look at both of the gentlemen speaking today, not just for right now, but the future. So if you look at the team abroad approach, I felt that once we kind of broaden the perspective of what our teens or what our young people are seeing, if they see themselves and see that the opportunities that exist beyond their current situation, it empowers them to search for more. It empowers them to ask more questions. It empowers them to kind of do more research and to see where they are in history and how they can make a difference with learning different languages, learning different cultures, learning to see how different things kind of affect them. I was just recently, the Ugandan Association just left here in Cincinnati on my other job at Paisby, and that's a joke, laugh, haha. And so, and so they were going through their some of their traditions and their individual sects within their community, and it just kind of resonated with me, from the drums to the language to the fashion to the culture, the food. I saw myself in that, and I wanted to understand more of it. You understand? So for me, it was a sense of how do we make sure there's a generational push, and I think that's what we align with Lamar. And as relate to the other piece was focus on how do we control the narrative. So how do we tell a story differently than what's already been talked about, and then what angles or perspectives or through what lenses can we share with the following generations that come before us, and those folks who are currently now who don't know. And I think to Ursula and Danny's point, we know that people are looking for cultural experiences, but if we don't tell them about it or show them how it's tethered to this, then they won't understand. So I think those are the couple points that made sense to us, and that's why they're here, and we're happy, and just to see you guys talk about it, it warms my heart, and frankly, I'm happy that we made the right decision.
That's great. I really appreciate that. This is such an important issue for all of us to discuss as much as we possibly can. But Ursula, Jason, and Danny, I'm interested if the data that you gathered when you were talking about not feeling safe on the road, was there a difference between Black people traveling here in the United States versus going internationally with the way that they felt?
Yeah, there were some differences. One of the ones that stands out, I'm not sure if I remember the data point, where Black travelers from France said that they had felt uncomfortable or not welcomed at a hotel. It was like some crazy number, like 61%. However, when it asked, whether or not race, affected them as travelers, only about 15% said. So it was a massive disconnect there with the French market. And, I mean, I've lived in London now for about a decade. And I mean, whereas like in America, race is very much, pronounced and front and center. People in Europe tend to think that, racism doesn't exist almost.
Right.
And it's like, but it does exist. It just shows up in different ways. It's not so in your face. So from that standpoint, it's why, yeah, there were some differences in terms of how, Black travelers, responded. But at the same time, there were very much, similar challenges, because, until you open your mouth, people don't know where in the world you're from.
Right.
And so, as a Black person, if I go to Paris, and I open my mouth, it's like, oh, Black American. And so the American trumps being Black almost. And it's just like, but the Black.
But only in France, though, right?
A couple other places in Europe as well. Yeah, okay. So it's this whole crazy experience of traveling while Black that you have to navigate.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's just, and I know Anthony's feeling the same way. It's just these are things that we never, ever had to consider in the slightest bit. Even like just female travelers, I see the differences that they have to go through and the stuff that women have to be on the lookout. So Ursula, it must be really sometimes stressful for you to be a Black woman and to tick more of those boxes. Yeah?
Yes, but interesting enough, from the survey, it was Black males who were more concerned with safety, right. Just because of issues to do with, the police and how that plays out.
Understand. Right.
Irrespective of, what destination you're in. But yeah, I mean, as a Black female, I always do my, if I'm traveling solo, I always do my research. I do all activities during the day. So I'm not doing activities at night. And it doesn't matter where in the world I go. It's like, I don't do nighttime, activities as a solo female. But yeah, safety is huge. And so, there's safety, as it relates to crime and, being assaulted or such, but just there's like the, mental safety, because if I'm spending thousands of dollars, pounds, whatever currency to go traveling, and, I rock up to a hotel and the person at the front desk, is not welcoming. I mean, that just changes my whole mood, and it affects my mental health. And it's just like, really, this is what I'm going to experience? Yeah, so there's, a couple types of safety that one has to worry about as a Black traveler.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So Anthony, I'm sorry.
I have a question. This seems to be such an important and relevant topic. Are the brands involved? Have you been working with the brands?
Yeah, brands have been involved. We had a couple that were sponsors on the survey. TripAdvisor was a sponsor. Danny, who else was a sponsor?
Sure. Yeah, Choice Hotels International. Yes. We have Virginia Tourism Corporation. We had a few others that were using. So these studies are possible through the sponsorship of, major companies who come to the table with dollars, who actually have their own proprietary list of questions they put into the study, who are using them. And I'm not at the liberty to say who these companies are, major global entertainment companies and travel companies, which I can't share, who use the data, and data tables. They're the ones that made these grants possible, really, by putting the money forward. The studies that we're doing, this next one, the Latinx study, is also, similar. NYC and Company, Los Angeles Tourism. We have major sponsors. There are Hilton Hotels, Hilton, should I say? It's Hilton worldwide. And so they are using the data actively. And, surprising to myself also that they didn't have this data before. They also are starting for this information, right. That is really helping them on the marketing side of things as well. One of the things that I say a lot, when I speak to the Black Traveler Study, is this whole idea as an advertiser myself, a marketer, this whole idea of household income, where we saw the Black travelers and Black families, the median income tended to be a little bit less. There's a lawnmower outside. I apologize for the background noise. But the travel intent was actually higher than all travelers, actually. They were looking to travel more than the average U.S. traveler. So one of the things we started to do at our agency is saying, look, household income can no longer be an indicator of travel intent. We cannot disparage a group or remove a group just because the household income isn't what we need it to be. So there's a lot of learnings coming out of it, not only on safety, right. on all that, but also on how we become a more inclusive industry and welcome all people to that travel experience when we're working on behalf of brands, right? Airlines, hotels, cruises, and what have you. So it's again really important to have this data.
It's quite shocking and telling that major hotel brands don't have this data, that they're looking for this data now, that this data hasn't existed. It says a lot.
I think to follow up on, I'm sorry.
Then we'll have Jason and Ursula.
So I think, again, to follow up on what Danny was talking about, this study provided a foundation for us to actually build on other things. We have a partnership with Destination International where we're looking at doing a report card for those DMOs. There's 700 of them about within the DI space, on the umbrella organization of CVBs and destination management organizations. So we're doing a report card using this data, saying if you would like, if you want this business, here's are some of the learnings that came from that. You need to see people who look like them. You need to see marketing opportunities, engagement, supply diversity numbers, etc. And then that's what will separate you from other companies who do not. So this is will be launched, I think, in fourth quarter, where the report card will come out from the DMOs as well. And there's a study that's going out with the EIC, the Events Industry Council, that looks at an equity task force and kind of what are the learnings from not only MMGY Global, but also the report card from DI. And then there's talking about kind of digging a little bit more down in the grass about where we are as an industry, what can we do to solve it, and what kind of platforms we need to elevate and to leverage to ensure that we're speaking to the issue. So this has started a movement based off data and with the end game of making sure, to Ursula and to your point, that we're a more inclusive industry as a whole, not just in segments, but as a whole.
Ursula?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that, while it may be surprising, it's not really, surprising when you look at the executive suites of travel brands as well as the DMOs. That's where it goes back to the numbers. You can't really fudge the numbers. You can put out as many statements as you want, but if your executive suite is not, diverse, and here, yes, we want Black people in the room, but it's also, the balance between men and women. Are Asians in the room? Are Hispanics in the room? Is anyone gay in the room? It's like, diversity comes in a whole spectrum. And, based on the way the US population, as well as elsewhere, is going, if your boardroom is and your, senior staff are not diverse, then no one's going to bring up these points because it's just not top of mind. Same thing, we know that from the study, 54% of Black travelers said that they're more likely to go to a destination if they see Black travelers in the advertising. And you look at most of the advertising right now, and yes, it's starting to change, but it's very vanilla. And it's just like,
yeah, right.
It's like, are you serious about targeting Black travelers? Because representation matters at all levels.
Yeah. Glenn knows the number one time the time I was pissed off the most on this show is when we were talking about diversity, and we invited, I won't say who, but a brand. And the 4 people we invited, we just invited them to come and talk. And the people that came on were all white. I was shocked.
Right.
I was absolutely shocked.
Yeah. Right. It's kind of silly, but I'm starting to feel, and I don't know, tell me if I'm just misguided, but I'm starting to feel that, horrific events like George Floyd's death is finally prompting a lot of Americans to wake up to this issue. I'm here in Providence, and I'm proud to say that there's an LGBT flag flying, there's a transgender flag flying, and in huge letters down entire street, it says Black Lives Matter. That, to me, shows the inclusiveness and diversity that communities should really be striving for, at least in what they do. Now we got to get to the hiring. Anthony?
But I think, in my opinion, that community has always kind of been, diverse, and it's always been like that, or it's been like that for a long time. But I've seen yes and no. I've seen I've seen people dig in on both sides, and I don't know if we're going forward. I don't know. I think the voices are getting louder instead of us talking to each other, and I think this is a really good way of us talking to each other, and for us to talk about on our show here, but also the demand, because the quickest way for things to shift in travel is for the brands to really care and really give a crap and to really change and not just like as you said, or just put out statements. I'm sick of statements.
Yeah, right. Aren't we all? All right, we're pretty much out of time today, so let's give everyone a shot to to share a little bit more. Frederick, one more plug for your website and your content. How can we learn more about you? How can we find you? How can we enjoy all of the stuff that you're putting out there?
Yeah, definitely. So I can be found at historybeforeus.com, on social media at History Before Us, and that is on Twitter, that is on Facebook, that is on Instagram. Releasing my upcoming documentary titled Sweet Home Alabama, A Chief and His Protege. It's going to be a short documentary of the life of a descendant from an individual who was on the Clotilda, which was the last slave ship to enter the United States, to Mobile, Alabama. So those are the ways that you can find me. My latest work got to be coming out here pretty soon this month. So thank you all for having me and believing in my project. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here, Frederick. We really appreciate it. Take care. All right, Lamar, on to you. Give us a good, hearty plug. How can we learn more about you and about Teens of Color Abroad and find you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're at teensofcolorabroad.org, and we're at Teens of Color Abroad on Instagram. We will be recruiting students soon. So if you are connected to students between the ages of 13 and 17 in high school that are interested in learning languages and learning, we have virtual cooking classes. We've been having some music. And this is at zero cost to students. Again, thank you to you all for your support. But we will be recruiting students soon. So please check us out at teensofcolorabroad.org and Teens of Color Abroad on Instagram.
How can we make a donation to the organization should we want to help out the kids?
Yeah, absolutely. You can donate at teensofcolorabroad.org/donate. We are a nonprofit. All donations are 100% tax deductible. So please give these students an opportunity to learn more languages so that they can travel the world when it's safe to do so.
Great. Anthony, you're muted.
Glenn, with your permission, I'd like to invite him back on to have a show of his own where we basically are doing a fundraiser for you to really kind of help you directly.
Yeah, well, we could totally set that up.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of these students. I've been able to now work with, as I said, over 200 students from across the U.S. I'm writing college recommendation letters for students I've never met in person. And this is the biggest dream as a Black male educator, to show students you can learn these languages. You can do this. Go see the world. So yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you, Lamar. And we'll be in touch. If you do us a favor, put your contact information into the private chat area so we can reach out to you directly. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, Ursula, how about some final thoughts from you? And feel free, you can be shameless with your plugs.
Yes, well, thank you very much for having us here. It's been a very long year of hard work by all of the organizations that were involved in the Black Traveler Study, and so it's fantastic to know that we were able to have net proceeds of 100,000 that and then $70K going to 20 content creators who each got 1,000, and then the 10 organizations who each got 5,000. So congratulations to all. They are on the website for the Black Travel Alliance, and that can be viewed at blacktravelalliance.org. You can learn more about our board, our mission, and just keep up with what we're doing by visiting that website. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here, Ursula. Take care. Have a great afternoon. So, Jason, on to you, sir. And do me a favor, when you're plugging yourself, I want you to get more involved in some of these events that we go to, right? Get out to the lodging conference, Alice, all of these financial conferences, and show how important your organization is to the bottom lines of these hotels. So, all right, what do you got to say for us?
Yeah, so first let me say thank you for that plug. We, since last year, we've been invited to certain organizations, but always welcome to accept invitations to come and speak our truth. Go to ncbmp.com for more information. Our conference is coming up November 10th to the 13th in Cincinnati. So we'll be hosting our conference there. And I would just encourage any person who's listening who is in the DMO space or hotels or convention center space, look at this data that we're offering today. It gives you a perspective of the opportunities that may present itself for you to help your city be sustainable as it relates to the new demographics and with the spend that we already knew, but you can prove it now with this study. So I just want to empower people. I want to keep them encouraged. And at the end of the day, we're about empowering communities through tourism. So with this data, it allows you to do that. So we're open and welcome to come back. It's when you want us to come back, we're excited about it. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And congratulations to all that that were in. I got the grant on both sides, from the content creators to the organizations. It was a great experience for us, and to give back is something that I look forward to continue to do. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here, Jason. Have a great afternoon. And Danny, you guys are doing all sorts of great research, really helping power that data that's going to make all of us make those important decisions and open us up to more communities of color that are going to pay to stay in our hotels. What do you guys up to?
Yeah, well, thank you. We're looking to the future. The demographics in this country are changing globally as well. We just launched MMGY Travel Intel Europe. Our next study is coming up. I mentioned it, Vistas Latinas, which means Latin viewpoints in English. Launching Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th. Don't forget, September 15th to October 15th, Hispanic Heritage Month. It's the largest study on Latin travelers in the U.S. ever. Deployed in 2 languages, not only English, but Spanish as well, to understand how Latin travelers are being influenced by people who speak Spanish at home. We're studying all facets of how people identify. Is the term Hispanic more readily welcome than Latin or Latinx? Afro-Latino, how does that factor in? Basically, if you're located in the Northeast or California or Texas, how does that matter to where you want to travel, where you want to stay? We have a lot of research coming up. Even the Portrait of the American Traveler Summer Edition is a whole diversity section about how diverse LGBTQ or non-white travelers are considering travel. So we're keeping our finger on the pulse of this, and also looking at generational preferences, because younger generations are starting to espouse the values that non-white travelers are also looking at. So it's changing, but we're happy to be kind of at the kind of forward edge of this, insights into how travelers of tomorrow are looking at these different considerations. So we appreciate your time and the platform for discussing the Black Traveler Study today.
Thank you so much, Danny.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Thank
Anthony,
you.
You're muted
Thank
again,
you so
man.
much. Thank you so much.
All right, take care, Danny. Have a good one, man. It was really awesome. And what I really like, Anthony, is being educated on stuff that I had no idea about. And I think forever from this point forward, I'm going to really start to think more about how other people, how women, how folks of different, skin colors all feel when they're out and traveling. Some of the challenges they may be feeling internally and externally that we don't even have to consider.
Right, and we have to make sure that each one of those people that were on our show, that we invite them back and we do things that we can support them.
Yes, and we will continue to do that, of course. Now, one really cool comment that we wanted to bring up before we get here. You got it? Yeah. Jose says he's a high school principal launching with their all-new Hospitality Career Tech Teacher program. He's a huge fan of the Hotel Impossible show, and you in particular. It would be cool if he uses some of that content to help teach future generations of hoteliers.
All you have to do is put your information, and Suzanne, our producer, will get to me, and I will happily help.
Excellent. I love it. Andy, this was really great. I got to get out of here because I have got to go do Rosh Hashanah lunch. And quite frankly, I'm starving over here. So, all right. This important conversation hurts. But guys, listen, you know what you want to do? You want to download our show in audio version, of course. And you can do that at Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Find us at novacancynews.com, Stitcher, Amazon, wherever you are downloading your shows. Well, that's where we are. If you want to talk to either of, he's at Anthony Hotels. I am at Traveling Glenn. Any final words before we go, Anthony?
Happy holidays, my friend.
Yeah, and have a great, I guess it would be a Tuesday for you. All right, I'm off to finish celebrating the new year. We'll see you all back here tomorrow. Remember, guys, you've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
All right, see you all later.
And don't talk over the graphic.
No, you need to talk over the